All right. All right. We are live. We are ready to rock and roll. So today we're getting into, I think this is our seventh masterclass series of the series to create the stress-free CEO life book. I think it's number seven, but basically if you're jumping on now and you're catching this one in particular, and you haven't seen the others, some of the things we're going to get into today are going to be connected with the other things we've already talked about. So it may help you to go back and do those as well. Okay. I'm going to definitely try to pull it all together so you can kind of see how this works. So if you are new to this world and you are new to this space, my name is Matt Travis. I really help you raise your lowest standards and increase your boundaries, which is what we're talking about today. So we're going to get into a really, really, really awesome topic. And people always ask me, Matt, what do you do? And I really just help people raise their lowest standards is what is the biggest thing that I do with people in my program. We do a lot of mindset work. We do a lot of action taking, whether it's health or business. We do really the things that get you the result and allow you to keep the result. So the topic today is like, I just love this topic because I'll start it off like this. You don't get what you want, you get your lowest standards. So whatever you allow in your life, okay, whatever your lowest standards are, when things get hard, when shit hits the fan, you're going to go to those lowest standards. You're going to go to that place of what you allow into your world. And that is really what's going to dictate what you have or don't have, get or don't get, do or don't do. So your lowest standards are so powerful, and they massively affect your boundaries. And we're going to kind of show you how this is all interconnected today. And I usually have a couple slides. Today, I literally only have one slide to make it real simple, because I'm going to show you how this is all interconnected, but really helping you see how the stuff we've already talked about, like the subconscious habits and how to reprogram them, the mental fitness stuff, the be do have, like all of the things that we've gone over in the past master classes really are key to understand in this class. And like, if you think about it, like if you've worked on trying to improve your business, if you worked on trying to if you worked on trying to improve your health, your well-being, release weight, whatever it is, right? You've tried to improve your sleeping, you've tried to improve all these things, and you're not actually getting that stuff, the results you want, or you are getting a result, but you're not able to keep the result. That is where this comes in. This is really, really, really big. So let me just pull this up real quick. Let me just get the one slide. One slide. Here we go. So let me share my screen here. All right. So this is how it looks. So it starts with this first part. This is a really, really key piece. So you all can see my screen now. Perfect. Okay, great. So this piece right here, this is the circular effect of this. This is how this all interconnects. So your boundaries and your lowest standards all starts with this first piece, which is your enoughness and your advocacy for yourself. So let's talk about what that means. So your enoughness, and this is something that I didn't learn this anywhere. I honestly found it out just from working with thousands of clients and doing hundreds of rapid transformation therapy sessions. I've learned that there's really kind of two types of enoughness. So the first one is self-love and self-worth. It falls on one side of the spectrum. So you're believing that you are deserving of something because you're enough, right? You believe you're enough to give yourself love. you're worthy of love, all of those things. Okay. And then on the other side of this, it is the capability and confidence side of enoughness. So believing that you are the person to do the thing, to get the result, that you can do it, that you're enough to do it, that you have the skills to do it. Okay, so you can kind of see enoughness is so big, and I will tell you, this is the underlying problem that so many people are dealing with. I think we have an epidemic of enoughness, and that's causing a lot of the issues that people have. And the thing is that when we don't feel like we are enough, then our advocacy for ourselves and for what we want in this world and for everything, basically we tend to settle and we don't advocate for ourselves because we don't feel like we are enough to do so, whether it be worthy enough or capable enough to do so. We don't speak up because we don't believe we're enough to, right? That we can speak this place. Now, understand this, folks. If that is the place that you're in right now, it is a subconscious program. We talked about that in the last couple master classes. It is a way that your mind has learned to be. So it is a way that you've learned to be. It's usually an indoctrination. So this can change. It's not the way that you always are. All right. And I want that really to sink in, because people, they're like, I want to set more boundaries for myself. I want to do this. I want to have bigger, better boundaries for myself. But why don't they do it? Most of it's unconscious. So definitely go back and watch that one. Okay. But we're going to kind of show you how it works with all this today. So if you don't have the enoughness dialed in, you aren't advocating for yourself and what you want and why you deserve it, how you're going to show up and get it, then boundaries, part 2, become very difficult. The boundaries become difficult because think of it this way. It's like if you're trying to set boundaries in your life, whether it's from people, things, whatever it is, you're not going to set those boundaries. You're not going to set those boundaries if you don't believe you're enough to have boundaries, right? If you think, this is what I find, I have a lot of people come to me and they're trying to outdo their being, the way that they're being. They're doing, and they're doing more to fill that enoughness gap. They're trying to do more. And they're doing more so that they are enough, so that they're worthy, so that they are capable and confident. And they get something out of being a doer. I know, because I absolutely was one. I'm a recovering doer, and now I'm more focused way on being. So you are not alone, folks. This is so many people going through this stuff. So when we think about setting these boundaries, we don't set the boundaries because we're like, well, here's a perfect example. It's like, well, if I don't have all the hours open in my schedule, then if, somebody wants to book a call or, wants to buy my product or whatever it is, like I need to just, abandon family time to go do that. And that's it. It's not the case, folks. You can set your boundaries. You can set your time. I started to realize that a while back, and I was like, you know what? Between 6 and 8 p.m. is my time to eat dinner with my family, be with my kids, and got to do it. Now, are there some times when that can't be perfect? Absolutely. That's okay. But it's just looking at it on the most part, for the most part, what are you setting boundaries wise? And boundaries is everything, right? What are the boundaries you set for your relationships? What are the boundaries you set for, what you allow into your world, into your life, into your house, into your environment? What are the boundaries you set? Because if you're not setting them, so if you have none yet, it goes back to the enoughness and advocacy piece. Now let's bring the lowest standards into this, because this is another big part of the puzzle. If your lowest standards are too low, because your enoughness is not there and your advocacy is not there, then you're not going to set these boundaries for yourself. So if we think about it, and you could think of it this way, this is a good way to start to wrap your head around this one. Your lowest standards, you have lowest standards in every area of your life. So you have lowest standards right now in your love relationships. If a person bridges the gap of your lowest standards of what you will allow, so it's like the line in the sand of what you will allow, they either disrespect you, they go over a boundary, then you will leave that love relationship. You will get out of it because it bridged your lowest standards. And then we could think about it in the same sense from a lowest standard as a parent, right? There comes a point in which your children do something and it bridges a gap and you don't allow it. Not allowed. Another example of lowest standards is for the things that you eat. So what do you allow in your body? What's your lowest standard for that? So if we don't, and this is interesting because think of it this way, if we don't believe we're enough, we're not worthy, and we're not capable and confident, we're not going to set a boundary and we're not going to have a lowest standard for what we allow in our body. And therefore, no diet or exercise plan or anything will ever work. Because you're already saying that, you know what, it's not even worth buying healthy food because I'm not good enough to set a standard for what is allowed into my body. So it's thinking of it like you get to decide, what do you want your lowest standard to be for what you allow food-wise into your body? What do you want your lowest standard to be when it comes to movement and exercise? What is your lowest standard that you have right now when it comes to sleeping? Do you prioritize sleep? Do you feel like you're enough to get sleep? What is your lowest standard when it comes to your bank account? What's your lowest standard when it comes to your business? We can keep going, folks. You have lowest standards in every area of your life. This may be the first time you've started to realize it. Wow, okay. And the thing is the reason most people either don't get results or get results and can't maintain them is because their lowest standards are too low. Because this is what happens. Your lowest standards are too low, so you get a result and you're like, oh, this is awesome. I got a result. I got clients. I lost weight, whatever it is, right? And then you can't maintain it. You can't hold that because when shit hits the fan, you're going to go back to your lowest standards. And if your lowest standards are too low, you will not be able to maintain that. And then you get stuck in it, and then you get stuck in the enoughness and advocacy piece because you're like, I'm not good enough. The hell is wrong with me? I couldn't do it. But it's really just the fact that your lowest standards were too low. And you didn't have boundaries because your lowest standards were too low. And it's all comes back to the fact that usually it's that the person doesn't feel like they're enough to have boundaries. And therefore, they don't set lowest standards. They just let life happen to them. They let other people decide what their boundaries are and what their standards are. So what you get to do today, folks, this is powerful. Now that you know this, you get to decide. Once it becomes conscious, folks, you get to decide. This can be scary because now you are in the driver's seat. You are a conscious creator of your life. And what happens, though, is that people won't do this because they're stuck in the enoughness and advocacy issue. They're still stuck there. So if you go to make these decisions in a moment that I'm going to talk about, and you just don't do them, and a day goes by, weeks go by, months go by, and you realize, shit, I still haven't set boundaries, or I set boundaries and I didn't hold them, or I had lowest standards, but they went lower than what I originally had planned. It always comes back to that first piece. So that is all the master classes before that address this. Okay. So that's why this is in the order it's in, because unless you get the mental fitness part on board, the subconscious part on board, all of the other pieces, none of it's going to matter. Okay. So let's talk about how to figure out what you're going to allow in your world. So when you go and set a goal, so like this is the thing. So I have a program called the Mind and Body Mastery, and it's like it's a 90-day program. And in this process, we help people figure out what their lowest standards are when it comes to eating, exercise, sleep, all the big key pieces of the puzzle when it comes to being healthy, a healthy human being, and loving on your body. And the thing is if at the beginning of the process, like I have them figure out what their lowest standards are then, but by the end of 90 days, their lowest standards are so massively different, like so different, because at the end of those 90 days, they can see differently. Their content and their context are different. They're able to visualize and see this very differently, because we are only, like, if you're coming from a certain perception right now of what you believe you can do, because you believe you only believe you're enough to have something, then you're going to stay stuck there. So ultimately, we want to get you to a place where you decide your lowest standards from a powerful place. This is all about power, folks. This is about standing in your power and deciding that, you know what, I'm not going to allow blank. So this is your moment to get to draw a line in the sand and say, you know what, I have not been taking care of my sleep. I have not been taking care of my movement. I have not been making sure that my food is dialed in and I'm getting the right things into my body. I have not been dialed in with my systems in my business. I have not been paying attention to my money in the bank. I have not been whatever it is. And then you decide, what do I need my lowest standard to be? Not what I want it to be. What do you need it to be? What are you committed to it being? And then you set it. Now that's tricky because some people have stuff around commitment. They're not committed to themselves because maybe they don't trust themselves. Maybe they're chasing safety. Maybe there's some subconscious things around enoughness, right? So they don't commit because they don't think they can do it. That's the capability and confidence part of enoughness. See how this circle keeps going? It's a vicious fucking cycle, isn't it, folks? And you can break this, though. It's totally possible. And it starts with one decision and a resolve. Resolve means keeping a promise to yourself, even when you don't feel like it. That's that commitment piece. So you're committed to doing whatever it takes, even when it's uncomfortable. Now, why do people not do it when it's uncomfortable? Because usually they don't have any accountability, and they get stuck in the accountability that they have to themselves, which is nothing, aka boundaries. So they don't have boundaries. They don't have lowest standards because they don't believe they're enough to have those things. So when you feel enough and you become an advocate for yourself and somebody who makes decisions from a powerful place, you are then going to create better lower standards. Whatever your lowest standards is, right? And people are like, well, they set these huge goals, huge goals, but they never think about their lowest standards. But that's what matters the most, because your lowest standards are going to determine when things get hard, you will go there. It's what you will allow. So what are you going to allow from here on out? What are you going to allow from yourself? And what are you going to allow from others? A lot of people, they want guarantees from others. They want a guarantee. 30 days, you get your money back if you don't do it. Blah, 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 blah. Like if you don't get the result, blah, 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 blah. But you don't ask for a guarantee from yourself. Right? What's the guarantee you've given yourself? What's that? Do you have a guarantee? A commitment? Something that you are set, that no matter what, you're going to make it happen. What is that for you? And that is where your boundaries come into play. That's where your lowest standards come into play. They're what keep you safe as you grow. They're what keep you healthy and happy. Like your boundaries are so key. A lot of the clients I work with, it's like we have to really put these into place, because if they're not in place as they grow and rise in their business, in their health and well-being, like they're not going to be able to sustain it and keep it because they don't have the boundaries to do so. And it's because their lowest standards are too low. So I'm here to tell you that every single one of you is 100% enough. Now, let me tell you what your brain's doing right now. Your brain's saying, I hear you, but don't let that get in your way. Don't let your automatic negative thought stories tell you a bunch of bullshit. Don't let your sabotage mind fuck you up. It's trying to do that because it wants you to stay safe and familiar and predictable and certain with no standards and no boundaries, and keep you in that place that you're just familiar with, that makes sense to you, that is not serving you. So right now, you get to decide, what are your lowest standards? Based on the place that you're right now, you are right now in your mind, right? What are your lowest standards? Because at least you get to decide whatever they are now. And the thing is can you change them? Abso-freaking-lutely. As you grow, you change. Boundaries, same thing. You start to realize that you set these boundaries for yourself. You set them up. You're like, you know what? I'm not going to let. So I'll give you an example of a boundary that I set. So at nighttime, my phone around 9:00, I put it on airplane mode, and I don't take it off till 7 a.m. the morning because I don't want anything entering my mind during my rest time. That's a boundary I set because I know my body needs rest and I want to be proactive in the morning rather than reactive. Any of you ever get reach for your cell phone in the morning and there's like a billion messages and then you start being reactive right away? It's not helpful. So it's like thinking, okay, how can I set a boundary for myself so I'm not reactive and I'm proactive in the morning? That's an example. There are boundaries I have in the clients that I bring in. There's boundaries that I have in my business. There's boundaries that I have in my relationships. There's boundaries that I have when it comes to self-care, all these things. There's boundaries. And then there's also lowest standards. What I will in no way, shape, or form, what I just don't allow in my world, right? What are these for you folks? This can be a game changer, eye-opening exercise for you to do, starting to look at your lowest standards and boundaries. And you just start to examine right now, what are the results? And if you're not happy with the results that you're getting in your life that are happening, you need to raise your lowest standards because that's the key. And you need to examine your boundaries. And if you're finding you're having trouble with those two, all comes back to that first piece of enoughness and advocacy for yourself. Because you're not going to advocate for yourself. You're not going to set those boundaries. You're not going to do the lowest standards because it's uncomfortable, it's unfamiliar, it's uncertain. And your mind isn't going to let you do it because it doesn't believe that you're good enough to have those things, to have lowest standards, to have boundaries. And I'm telling you, you are a human being who are afforded these rights, folks. Someone indoctrinated you with the idea that you don't get these, and it's not true. And it's usually indoctrinated when you're a child from a subconscious standpoint, or a traumatic experience when you were younger, or even maybe a traumatic experience when you were older that made you believe this. None of it's true. So that's that. That's the real stuff right there. So I'm just going to look on Facebook and see if there's any questions from anybody, and then I will also absolutely, if you have any questions, please ask them. If you have any challenges around this, any things that you think have been holding you back, and I got two people on with me right now. Any questions from either of you ladies around boundaries, standards, enoughness? This is a big one. It's a deep one. This is also a thinker for sure. Like, you may need to sit with this one for a little bit because it really can hit home, because a lot of times when we realize, and this is one of the last things I'll say before we wrap this one up, there can be shame around this, folks. There can be shame that it's like, I don't stand guard at the doorway of my mind. I don't have boundaries around what I allow in my life. I don't have lowest standards, or my lowest standards are way too low because I don't feel enough, right? There can be absolute shame. I know I've felt it many, many, many times in my life. There's shame around the idea that, like, this is just me. This is just my life. I can't do anything about that. But I'm telling you, you are an empowered creator of your life. So you get to decide what it looks like. You get to choose. Yep. And that's a lot of, and unfortunately, it takes unfortunate experiences to happen to raise our lowest standards and our boundaries of what we will allow, right? We have a bad relationship, and then it's like, you know what? I will not allow that in my life. But the thing is, when you have that happen, it's actually a good thing because it allows you to raise your lowest standards and your boundaries. In the moment, it seems bad, but it actually helps you make a better boundary. It's a lesson that taught you that this is not what I deserve. This is not what I will allow. And I'll give you the last little secret here, though. It's the things we don't want to look at that get us, right? The things that we don't want to look at that get us. So it's like, I don't want to look at my food. I don't want to look at my business. I don't want to look at my team. I don't want to look at my relationships. I don't want to, it's the thing that you don't want to do the most, that you're feeling the most resistance around, that you need to look at first. Because how you do anything is how you do everything. And you can't lie to your psyche. It knows what's up. It knows you better than you, right? So you got to pay attention, and you have to know that it's going to do what it's going to do, and you get to decide if you get to change it. Because if you remember from one of the last masterclasses, one of the ways we communicate with our subconscious is through repetition. So what we're repeating every single day is creating more of that stronghold in that habit, that subconscious habit. I'm going to give you just one last example so I can kind of drive this home. So when I destroyed my gut health, I was forced into making higher, lowest standards and much bigger, better boundaries for myself. But I learned later, you don't have to build these boundaries and these lowest standards from a place of pain and from a place of frustration and from a place of dis-ease. You can do it right now from a place of empowerment and joy and being. But I had to do it from a place of destruction. And I had to really, really, really decide what I was going to allow into my body gut health wise. And I remember asking myself this question. Like I remember being like, if I don't raise this lowest standard and I don't set this boundary for these particular types of foods that allow my life, will I be here for my kids to grow up? And then I went even further down this rabbit hole. I was like, will I be there for their graduation? Will I be there for their relationships? Will I be there for future grandchildren? And I literally, like, the idea, like, I was so addicted to sugar and my gut was so messed up and I was in such a bad place. And the brain fog was brutal and the emotional turmoil from gut, like your gut it controls everything when it comes to your emotions. It's like your psyche and your organs, your gut. So your subconscious mind and your gut health impact your feelings and emotions and your depression and anxiety more than you will ever know. And I learned the link between these from not only being a coach, but personally, I've dealt with this stuff. And I realized that I wasn't going to be around if I didn't do something about this, if I didn't draw a line in the sand. So I decided the number one thing I needed to draw in a line in the sand was refined sugar. It needed to be a non-negotiable. It needed to be a lowest standard. It literally dropped below that. I rejected it from my life. It's not something that I allow. And this is important, folks. I want you to hear this. It's not that I can't eat it. It's that I don't. It's that I decided that I was enough to not allow it in my body. I set a boundary that it doesn't have any place inside because it hurts my body. It hurts me. and I didn't want it to hurt me anymore. So I took a stand and I decided that this was a boundary and a lowest standard that was an important step in my transformation. And I've had many others from then on out, but that was one of the biggest ones that I ever did. And I mean, it's been almost 6 or 7 years now, maybe 5 or 6 years. I don't know. I don't even think about it anymore because it's part of my being. And I don't beat myself up if it ever randomly snuck in and I just didn't see it, right? But I just get right back on track because it's my boundaries, it's my lowest standards, it's who I'm being. So it comes back to the first masterclass, the be, do, have. So how are you being? What are the lowest standards that you need to set in place for you? You don't have to do anything. You don't have to, right? We should all over ourselves. We're like, I should do this. I should do that. And none of that matters. It's what's the best for your highest self? I asked my future self, I said, what would be the best thing for me to do now to ensure that I was my highest self and lived my best future? And that's always the way that I play. I look and see what is it going to be? What is it got to be in order to get to where I want to go? So if you're getting blocked in your goals for your business, you're getting blocked in your goals for your health, you're getting blocked in your goals for your wealth, you're getting blocked in your goals for your relationships, look at your lowest standards, folks, because that's what you're getting. You're getting your lowest standards, you're getting your subconscious habits, you're getting your current identity and way of being. And it can all change because it's not you. It's your indoctrinated subconscious you. And it can change like that. So if you find you're having trouble with any of these things, please, please, please do not hesitate to reach out. I'll put a link in the comments below on Facebook. Schedule a wake-up call with me and we can break it all down. We can figure it out for you. Okay, because I know what it's like to feel alone and to feel like nobody understands what you're going through. And my members will tell you, like, it's nice to be in a container where it's like you're not alone and that people are with you and they get you, and that you're seen and you're heard so that you can evolve and transform with some love and accountability, right? All right, folks, you have a wonderful rest of your day. Keep showing up, taking action. You will get results.